Hello. Chances are, many of you have either experimented with psychedelics at least once in your life, or are planning to, or even are thinking about it. Now, with endorsements by key social figures such as Joe Rogan from the famous Joe Rogan podcast, and countless studies providing evidence of how beneficial psychedelics can be for a person's health, it seems as if we are finally establishing a more therapeutic and spiritual relationship with psychedelics. And the stigma that surrounds them are finally starting to dissipate. But how did that stigma get there? Maybe getting illegally drugged by the federal government left a bad taste in our mouth. I am talking about the secret acid experiments conducted by the CIA in the 50s and 60s. Now, while this is almost half a century ago, it is still important to recognize exactly what happened in this part of history and how it still affects us to this day. And so, we must recognize what these projects were by name, what was conducted in these experiments, and what were the grand effect of these experiments throughout American history. Now, what were they? 149 sub-operations with names like Midnight Climax, Operation Paperclip. All these a part of the main project MK Ultra. Now, the existence of these projects are only known by released financial documents by the CIA, which can be found in the CIA database on their website. But these are the only documents that can be found from the CIA, as the rest have been purged. At the head of MK Ultra was Sidney Bottleegg, a chemist and spy master. And the head of the science behind the experiments was famous psychiatrist and hypnotist Jolly West. Now, his involvement has been proven by Tom O'Neill, the famous investigative journalist who wrote the book Chaos, which illustrates 20 years of research into MK Ultra and other secret CIA acid experiments. Now, their goal, as stated to Congress when they testified in the 70s, was to be able to control the mind of the individual using acid, or LSD, a psychoactive drug that causes hypnotic illusions and causes an individual to be extremely vulnerable and impressionable. Now, through his research, Tom O'Neill found an exact version of what their goal was, which was shown in Jolly West's emails. Their goal was to cause an individual to lose their mind at a trigger and violently murder a person that they choose to, that the CIA wants them to murder, and forget that they ever were hypnotized. That was the exact goal. Now, the reasons that the CIA had to testify was because they committed crimes against our country. They operated on US soil, but that was not their only crimes. In fact, it gets a lot worse. Our Central Intelligence Agency, that still operates today, conducted acid experiments on unwilling patients, military personnel, citizens, and prisoners. They did this through institutions such as the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, found in San Francisco, where it became the hub of acid and hippies throughout the entire summer of love. This is the exact place where Jolly West conducted most of his research, and other key CIA scientists conducted LSD research. They also conducted research in prisons. In fact, famous criminal Whitey Bulger described in an excerpt on Ozzy that he was treated as an LSD guinea pig, and he even attributes these experimentations to the reason why he became such a violent criminal. They also conducted experiments on their own created hippie dwellings, where they had federal agents dressed up as hippies. And in Midnight Climax, they created their own brothel and hired prostitutes to lure men in and secretly drug them when they're trying to have the night of their lives. While they did not start the acid wave, the CIA clearly fanned the flames and exemplified the damage that was caused. So what was the totality of the damages? Countless of ruined lives because of these acid experiments. One example could be found in an American pilot who had no history of violent acts. After visiting a military medical institution for his migraines, 6 months later would have a violent attack and murder and rape a 6-year-old girl who he hallucinated to be his cousin that molested him. Sounds a little familiar to the exact goal of these mind control experiments, but maybe gone wrong. Another terrible thing to come out of this is potentially the creation of one of the country's most depraved criminals, Charles Manson, leader of the famous murderous cult that took the lives of Hollywood elites. He is documented to be linked with all the institutions where all these acid experiments took place. And so with that, the CIA is therefore responsible for the end of the love movement. Because as the Vice puts it, the night of the Manson murders ended the summer of love and brought in the nightmare of fear and paranoia. While we may never know the damage caused in totality, it is still important to recognize what we do know, to take it all in and process it. We must understand what these experiments were, secret acid experiments conducted by the CIA, such as Midnight Climax and MK Ultra. We didn't know exactly what was done, unconsensual, unsolicited drugging of American citizens, and what were the effects? Countless lives ruined and the end of the anti-war movement. But there is one good thing that the CIA's crimes has taught us. As we find our new relationship with acid, we must understand exactly what damages can be caused if this drug is in the wrong hands. My name is Carlos Fernandez. Stay safe, my friends.